Fellas, what's going on? We've got a mail for you today and a couple of announcements. Everything's looking pretty good with Curse. You guys have been asking, how is it going with Curse and your partnership? There are still no adverts on the channel. We're not officially back in the game yet, but Curse have contacted us and said, yo guys, we've fixed the problem. Should be fine now. We managed to resort out our contracts and stuff with YouTube and some other monetization people. That's going to be all good. Also, Ghost is back. He's back in Manchester for his Download Festival. We're going to be hearing all about that, hopefully on the podcast. We're going to try and do the podcast again this week and get that uploaded for you guys so you can play around with that and listen to some more audio stuff while you're on the go from us as well. It should be pretty funny. We've also started doing multiplayers of different games with members of the team. We're going to have our first videos of that coming out this week. And also, it is, of course, web show weekend. This Saturday, it's going to be the live web show with me and Ghost. Please send your brofists from around the world. If you're a new subscriber, because we're getting plenty a day, around about 100 a day joining the channel. Essentially, we have a wall for our web show, which is a map of the world. And we are very big on our community, and we're always impressed to see how far and how widespread you guys are. And we, of course, do the brofist to each other every single day. And what we love for you guys to do is just send us a picture of you throwing us a brofist in any fashion you want. Send that to preachgaming@gmail.com. Send that to me. We'll print it out. We'll get it on the wall. We'll give you a shout out on the web show. All that kind of good stuff. Awesome. Okay, so today's question came from Darylin. Preacher, I'm going to summarise it. I mixed and mashed because loads of you sent me these emails, so I've kind of missed a rash, but Darylin had very close to what I was trying to say. Here's the question. Preacher, after your success with making gold in World of Warcraft, how do you feel about the real money auction house, which is soon to come to Diablo 3? Do you think it's going to be a success? Are you actually going to play the real money auction house, or are you going to be using this as a non-starter? Do you think it's going to be rubbish? Do you not like it? What do you think of it overall, Preach? Can you see it being valuable as people earning actual income? Okay, so this has been on the tip of people's tongues since it was announced, essentially, is the real money auction house. This big change to the way gaming is going to work. I have spoke about it in the past, and initially I was like, this is a great idea by Blizzard. Because instead of this microtransactions idea where we pay small amounts for little upgrades, that kind of thing that we've seen in a lot of games like League of Legends, Tribes Ascend, all that kind of stuff, paying some money and getting faster game uploads, faster items that are generally cosmetic. Some of them aren't. I don't like it when they aren't cosmetic, and it's very much a game changer. Fuck that. If you got to pay money to pay to win is a big phrase that's thrown around in these kind of things. I actually thought the real money auction house was a genius idea. Why? Because it's not just Blizzard that wins, the players win as well. And I can see this being the first step to what essentially will become the standard model for most gaming, especially when they can actually acquire items or something along those lines, is the fact that players can sell that and earn a little bit as well of real life money is very cool. It will obviously be a little bit suspect towards like gold farmers. I'm not saying just Chinese gold farmers, that doesn't exist anymore. Gold farming is widespread around the globe. Gold farmers who are continuously farming drops, in the case of Diablo, wearing pure, give me extra items, gear, and doing all sorts of crazy stuff as well. However, Diablo 3 seems to be a bit of a failure. I cannot see the real life auction house for Diablo 3 being very successful at all. My thinking for that is it's already been proven that you do not need best of the best gear in order to succeed in Diablo 3. You really don't. You just don't need it. It's not entirely worthwhile. Now, this isn't exactly the case of because I haven't even bothered to cap in Diablo 3. As you can see, I'm still level 36. Why is that, Preacher? Why have you not bothered to cap? Well, personally, Diablo 3 is not the kind of game I enjoy. More to the point is I don't exactly enjoy gear. I don't. I never have. Farm raids in World of Warcraft are just one of the worst things I ever have to experience. If once a boss is dead, I'm quite happy to probably never do that boss again. Maybe once or twice with friends, something like that. I love doing that. Farm raiding for me is absolute boredom. I hate it. I can't stand it. The fastest possible clearance of an instance is fine with me. This is why I love it in Method, is we clear Dragon Soul 25 Heroic in like an hour or less, especially with a 25% debuff. And Diablo 3 is very focused on getting drops. The story doesn't change. I played through the Diablo 3 story and thoroughly enjoyed it. Even the bits that don't make sense, right? I could oversight the fact that some parts of it don't make sense. All in all, after that, I just wasn't that interested. I looked at the more difficult modes and yeah, things can one-shot you now, that kind of stuff. But essentially you just replay the same game over and over again. That's not for me. Farming drops, hoping for some really sweet yellow. I'm just not interested whatsoever. But from a purely speculative point of view and thinking from a common sense approach about the real life auction house, it's been proven you don't need that gear. The guys who killed it, some of them from Method, the 4-player team from Method killed the Inferno hard mode. Yes, you can go on about hardcore mode and that, but if you're investing real life money into a hardcore character that can die, you have more money than I have, my friend. You have far more money than I have, quite literally. But the gear just isn't that important, so why would we spend money on it? The other problem is we can see already occurring. If we go on to here and I say something like level 61 handers, this is purely guesswork, but I can imagine my answer is going to come up here. Search. There you go. 38 million, 50 million, 39 million, 40 million, 35 million, 25 million, 70 million gold. What? Are you fucking insane? 75 million buyout. 30 million buyout. 40 million buyout. 75 million buyout for these weapons. And they're just not that needed. What the fuck are you guys thinking with these prices? Are you insane? How much do you think you're going to make? So, on the basis of this, we can already see some people have these super rare drops. The real-life auction house will join the game. And quite frankly, people will be expecting to make hundreds of thousands of pounds from this stuff. That ain't going to happen. That is not going to happen at all. Especially as this gear is just not needed. You don't need it. The first kills in this game were done well below that gear level. Now, of course, this goes back to the age-old adage that can apply to World of Warcraft is gear makes life easier. Sure it does. The problem is in Diablo 3 and on Inferno mode is things one-shot you regardless of gear if you fuck up. It really is a case that things will just kill you. It doesn't matter how good your gear is. If you make a mistake, and the fact that the game mainly relies on what your build is and your runes when you go into these encounters and your ability to get the fuck out of the stuff that kills you, gear is irrelevant. Gear is just not that relevant. Yeah, it helps you kill the boss quicker, you'll have some more HP, but gear seems to be more relevant towards the trash rather than the bosses, because Inferno mode bosses, if you make a mistake there, you will die regardless of your gear level. So gear is not going to be the be-all and end-all of making your character able to deal with these situations. What I could see happening is people who believe gear will help them in that way will probably buy some of these items, but they're going to buy them very cheap. We're not going to be able to say 40 million gold off, £4,000 or $4,000 or whatever people expect to get out of the real money auction house. That is just not going to happen at all. It really isn't. And quite frankly, it will fail on that premise. What Blizzard I would like to have seen is not the fact that bosses one-shot you in Inferno mode if you make a mistake, but that there was a chance you could survive, and we had some very tight enrage timers where your gear really did matter, and you had to push your characters to the max in order to achieve the kill. Then I would have definitely seen people using the real money auction house and moving. I mean, just look at some of these prices. 69 million, 90 million for the old rubble drive. Wow. Absolutely crazy is the amount of money these guys are expecting for this stuff. Really insane. And this just goes all the way through. If I was going to go through barbarians, armor, all armor types, if I wanted a really nice set of pants, how much is a really nice set of pants going to cost me? They're going to set me back about 2 million gold with some nice armor. Holy Christ. Guys are crazy. When it comes to this stuff, guys are absolutely insane, and it's just not going to work out whatsoever. And the real life auction house, I think in Diablo 3 will be an abject failure. I think it's got to be said, because it's been proven very, very quickly that they just don't need it. They don't need it. 1 million gold for some nice gloves. Ooh. Oh man, no, not at all. As a viable source of income, are you going to be able to make your living from this? Absolutely not. I could pick up some nice 1.2 million intelligence gloves with some poison resistance. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But I just don't need it. I don't. I could deal with the drops I've got. I'm using some very... If I build up enough, I could probably pick up one item to fit into that final slot where I've been unlucky with drops. But if you're playing with friends and you're picking up lots of gear between all 4 of you, you just don't need it. The real money auction house will be for people who are abjectly stuck in this old way of thinking that gear makes the ultimate difference. That gear really makes the ultimate difference between a kill and not a kill. And as much as I would like to say that, you will not be looking to drop 85 million, 90 million on the old rubble drive, or something along those lines. 69 million on a two-handed sword. As brilliant as that sword is, don't get me wrong, I would love to have that sword. I am not in any position to say, yes, 69 million gold is a fair price. And if that had a price of $100, absolutely not. Are you insane? No way. People with too much money and are just completely stuck on the game are probably going to use the real money auction house. And maybe it is the old case of the same in World of Warcraft, is we completely rely on the stupidity of others to make our decisions for us. In the auction house in World of Warcraft, I don't do daily quests. Fuck daily quests. I make my money on the auction house because I know that there are so many people out there who are lazy and cannot be bothered and will rather abuse the system in order to make money and just generally just buy anything and everything that they could pick up cheaper. I know websites that continuously post people buying stuff like milk that you can buy from a vendor for 2 copper. They sell it on the auction house for $1. And people buy it because they just can't be asked or they don't know any better. But when you've got prices that are completely outrageous that the average man just does not have, they will think twice. People don't seem to understand this. If you post things for really crazy prices, even the stupidest and the laziest of people will look to other ways of doing things. Okay? That is the big problem. And when it comes to the real money auction house and they're being asked to part with their hard-earned cash or cash from their parents or whatever it might be, and they're posted for crazy prices, no way at all. What we might ultimately see is the prices come down to a reasonable thing, and therefore you're not earning enough to make it worthwhile for the sellers. Sure, if you've got 100 items that you're going to sell for $2 or $3 a time, you're not even then going to make any worthwhile money, because you're only going to get $1.50, $2 max out of something like that. But that is the kind of money people are prepared to part with. Charging limited prices, $10 even if you had 100 items at $10, with Blizzard's cut, you're still not going to make realistically enough money without having to play constantly, more than a real life job would do. In order for the real money auction house to work, we need things like that people can do on their side time and not looking to try and flip things on the auction house. You'll have people who will try and say, oh, okay, well, I'll pick this up for $2.5 million and try and sell it for $3 million, or I'll pick it up for $1.50 and try and sell it for $2.50. That's the sort of ratio I think we'll see, is people cutting this by about $1 million and $2.50, things like that. That's where we're going to ultimately end up seeing. And still not a viable return on our investment, especially with the time invested. People seem to think that selling an item in a game and then waiting for it to sell is appropriate income. It really is not, because that's bad money per hour. And the world works on money per hour, not how much money you actually get. If that money took you 2 hours to get and you 2 hours of your time, that is really poor money. What we want is good money per hour, and this is just not going to be viable, unfortunately. I don't see it happening. I really don't, and I think it's a disappointment. I think Blizzard should have heavily focused on tighter enrage timers, abilities that could be soaked and absorbed, that could literally be survived if they played it correctly, that kind of thing. I would love to have seen that and made gear more important, because then buying gear on the auction house would have been far more important. The people I've seen spending millions on this game were people who were vying for world first or some sort of crazy first, and not enough people out there are willing to make that kind of commitment. Just a simple glance again, looking around here for some braces, nothing special, 1.5 million, 20 million buyout. These are the kind of guys I'm talking about. He's put up some braces there, sure they're great braces, for 20 million buyout. And you're going to have people saying, oh, I got this super sick drop, I'm going to put it on the real money auction house for $2,000, I'm going to make a fortune. Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's going to buy it at all. I see it all the time on the WoW auction house. People trying to get some rare epic drop and they try and sell it for outrageous money. And if they get lucky, some idiot will come along and buy it for outrageous money. Maybe even people from my own guild looking to get everything as maxed as possible before we go into our first raids. But guess what? Those guys will turn it around at you at the back end and have a ton more stuff than you have and completely destroy you in the later game. You might get lucky once or twice is what I'm trying to say. You might get lucky and make some money at some point. But that is not going to be consistent. So trying to think of Diablo 3 as almost a second job? Absolutely not. If you're lucky, you might earn enough to buy a game after a couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months, something along those lines. But what I expect to see is the Real Money Auction House will go live. We're going to see people posting stuff for insane prices, nobody buying it, and then it just plummets down to being a couple of dollars, a dollar here and there, something so people aren't too bothered. Nobody's too bothered about losing a dollar to get a really nice item. But then again, the sellers aren't going to be earning enough from the dollar in order to make it worthwhile. So that's how I see the Real Money Auction House going. I'm disappointed that the way Diablo 3 plays out is gear is just not that relevant. Of course it's relevant, don't get me wrong. But in terms of actually getting that Inferno kill on Diablo, it can be done without having to abuse massive auction house prices. And no matter how much gear you get, when Diablo lays down the smack on your face, that gear is not going to save your ass as much as you would like it to be. Essentially, you're just hoping that your friends res up. And quite frankly, your runes and your setup are so much more important. Having the correct character setup will save you 1,000,000 times more than dropping 100 million gold on the Real Money Auction House or on the Gold Auction House. Either way, it's just not going to happen. Alright guys, that's me done for today. I hope you have a great weekend. If you've got any questions, you send them to preachgaming@gmail.com. Take it easy, ballers.